Swalwell, were you a part of any response that was being drafted for that meeting? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, are you familiar with the efforts to draft a response for that meeting? Dearborn, just by what I've seen reported. Swalwell, but you don't have first-hand knowledge of who was responsible for drafting that response. Dearborn, no, that's not my responsibility. Swalwell, if I wanted to know where Donald Trump was when that June 9th meeting took place, how would I find that out? Just based on your knowledge of the campaign. Dearborn, I'm not sure. Maybe through Rona would be my best guess. Swalwell, because she keeps the calendar. Dearborn, I'm guessing that she does. I mean, she did his entire life. So that would be, but now I'm making an assumption, so I don't know. Swalwell, okay. On July 8th, 2017, the New York Times broke the first news about the June 9th, 2016 meeting. Do you know how the New York Times got that information? Dearborn, I don't. Swalwell, on June 9th, 2016, about the same time the meeting in Trump Tower was taking place, candidate Trump at 4:40 p.m. tweeted, "How long did it take your staff of 823 people to think that up? And where are your 33,000 emails that you deleted?" It was a tweet in response to Secretary Clinton. Were you with candidate Trump when he made that tweet? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, do you remember that tweet? Dearborn, I don't know how many thousands of tweets he's done, but I'll have to be honest with you and tell you that I'll just have to take your word for it that he sent that out. Swalwell, were you aware of any efforts among the campaign to try and procure the 33,000 deleted tweets? Dearborn, deleted tweets? Swalwell, I'm sorry, deleted emails. Dearborn, not to my knowledge. Swalwell, okay. And you're familiar that there was discussion throughout the campaign about 33,000 missing emails of Secretary Clinton? Dearborn, it was a constant theme. Sure. Swalwell, and I guess my question, just to clarify, was it discussed among any individuals that you were working with, that it would be great to have or know what are in these 33,000 emails? Dearborn, I'm sure people would love to have known, but if you're asking if there was an effort that I'm aware of, I'm not. Swalwell, okay, what was your role at the Republican National Convention? Dearborn, originally it was to try to work with Republican members and just kind of stay connected. But then I also had the small policy shop. So the RNC and the campaign got together and, they just wanted to make sure that as they went through the platform, that the then candidate and hopefully soon-to-be nominee, that his views would be reflected in, the platform to be just consistent. Swalwell, who was responsible for making sure that the nominee's views would be reflected in the platform? Dearborn, I guess ultimately I had that responsibility, but I would always, we would try to, on any given day, or I think it all happened on one day, if I remember right, but we tried to, I think it was over a 2-day period, maybe 2 or 3-day period. It gets a little blurry. But we would try to just update people. Like, here's what he said in the speech, and this is consistent with where he is, and depending upon what the topic was. Swalwell, what, yeah, for his 3 o'clock? Conway, you expressed a desire to go to the Bob Dole deal at 3. Dearborn, I don't think I'm going to make that. That's okay. Swalwell, no, I don't want to stand in the way of that. Conway, are you through? Swalwell, no, but I'm happy to wait for him to go. I don't have much more. Dearborn, no, it's fine. Caulfield, Mr. Chairman, Congressman, I think it's his desire to finish this, so he... Swalwell, I know, but I do have about probably... Caulfield, no, we understand that. Dearborn, I'll make it easy on you guys. At this point, with security and everything, by the time I get over there, it's already baked and gone, so don't worry about it. Caulfield, and Congressman, it's not your fault. We're not looking at it that way. Dearborn, no, look, great American, getting an award, it's about time. That's my 2 cents. There you go. That's on the record, too. Swalwell, there was a Ukraine amendment at the Platform Committee. Do you remember that? Dearborn, I do. Swalwell, what did you understand the candidates, the nominee's position would be if there was an effort to have the Republican Party's platform express that lethal assistance should be provided to Ukraine? Dearborn, well, my understanding was different from what happened, so I didn't necessarily have... Swalwell, I guess let me just back up. I'm not talking about what happened. I'm just saying the day. Let's just say the night before the first platform committee meeting. If someone said to you, hey, Rick, what do we do if there's a proposal to provide lethal assistance to Ukraine? Dearborn, right. Swalwell, what would you have believed the candidate's preference would have been? Dearborn, so that discussion didn't happen, and I didn't have a view on it the night before. Swalwell, were you aware that others were corresponding about what the candidate's view on Ukraine was, based on interactions with the candidate, other campaign officials? Dearborn, you'd have to be more specific. That's too vague for me. I don't know what you mean. Swalwell, so did you see any internal campaign emails prior to this decision point about what were red lines for Donald Trump, based on his beliefs on Ukraine and Russia? Dearborn, there would have been some policy positions put together just as guidance in each one of the buckets as we did the different issue sets. I may have skimmed over it, but there was no, meeting to kind of walk through. We're going to fight for X, Y, and Z. Everybody was just kind of responsible for knowing what he had said, and then kind of sizing that up against whatever was going to go on in that particular subcommittee at the convention. Swalwell, and I guess I'm, in part, referring to this Dearborn Production 107, where you, as you testified, from some source on the campaign, copied and pasted a sequence of events prior to the Ukraine amendment discussion. And under Monday, July 11th, you stated, or this individual stated, based upon foreign policy discussions in D.C. with the nominee in March regarding support to Ukraine, lethal assistance was a geopolitical concern raised in the discussion. So I guess if you read that, it would suggest that at least some individuals on the campaign had knowledge of what candidate Trump's beliefs were around lethal assistance to Ukraine. Dearborn, oh, I'm sure many people had views on that, but this is an after-action report. This is almost 1 month later. It's a tick-tock of what happened in the subcommittee, the sequence of events. Mr. Swalwell, are you familiar that J.D. Gordon believes that the candidate provided guidance at that March 2016 meeting to ease up on Ukraine? Did you understand that that was J.D. Gordon's knowledge? Mr. Dearborn, I'm sure J.D. Gordon had a view of what the then candidate's thoughts were on Ukraine. Swalwell, when did you become aware of the pro-Ukraine amendment that was offered? Dearborn, John Mashburn and I think we got a text to come into the National Security Room. And so we went over to see J.D. Swalwell, you got a text from J.D. Dearborn, it was either from J.D. or from one of the delegates saying, hey, there's an issue and J.D. wants to talk to you about this issue. Swalwell, do you still have that text message? Dearborn, I don't. Was it a text? Swalwell, because you said you used your personal phone, right? Dearborn, yeah, I can go back and look, but I can't remember if it was a text or if John got texted and he got me or how it worked. Swalwell, okay, can you review? Dearborn, sure. Swalwell, and provide if you find it. Dearborn, sure. Caulfield, yes. Swalwell, what was discussed once J.D. alerted you and John that there was an issue? Dearborn, so he's sitting at a side table. Swalwell, who's he? Dearborn, J.D. Gordon is sitting at a side table, and the delegates are all kind of in a square discussing. And John and I went in, and he explained that there was an upcoming amendment on Ukraine, and he wanted to make sure that that amendment was in line with what he felt the candidate's position was. Swalwell, and what did J.D. express to you about the candidate's position was? Dearborn, appropriate assistance, I believe, versus lethal assistance, I think, was the distinction he was trying to make. Swalwell, what do you believe Senator Sessions' position was on that issue? Dearborn, I don't know if we talked about it much. I don't think we had a discussion about it. Swalwell, prior to talking to J.D., what did you believe candidate Trump's position was on that issue? Dearborn, well, I didn't talk to him about that either. So short of it being referenced in a speech or discussed at a meeting, I wasn't really focused on that. Swalwell, so why change the language? Dearborn, I think J.D.'s view was he wanted to make sure, in his opinion, that it was consistent with the candidate's position. Swalwell, did you ever discuss the Ukraine platform position with any foreign officials or foreign nationals? Dearborn, I did not. Swalwell, are you familiar or do you know whether J.D. did? Dearborn, I have no idea. Swalwell, do you know whether Mr. Mashburn did? Dearborn, I don't know. Other than you, J.D., and Mr. Mashburn, who would have been familiar with the decision to address the Ukraine amendment? Dearborn, Matt Miller was also there with J.D. Gordon. Swalwell, what was his role? Dearborn, Matt was a volunteer. He handled, J.D. was doing kind of foreign policy and defense. Matt had kind of a specialty in Veterans Affairs because that subcommittee would deal with veterans issues too. Swalwell, on July 14, 2016, Carter Page emailed J.D. Gordon, other foreign policy team members, and said, as for the Ukraine amendment, excellent work. Based on everything I've heard from the Clinton gang in recent days, I know they have exactly those kinds of tactics which were redlined in Cleveland. Were you familiar with this Carter Page email? Dearborn, I wasn't. Swalwell, did anyone ever talk about that email around you? Dearborn, I learned about it after the fact by accounts. Swalwell, did you go to the Global Partners in Diplomacy conference on July 20th in Cleveland? 2:57 p.m. Dearborn, no. Was that the meeting with the diplomats? Swalwell, yes. Dearborn, no, I didn't go to that. Swalwell, do you know if Senator Sessions attended that? Dearborn, I think he did. Swalwell, and who on staff would have assisted Senator Sessions? Dearborn, Sandy Love. Swalwell, okay, during the campaign, how often did foreign officials meet with members of the campaign or the candidate? Dearborn, there were all kinds of series of meetings that were arranged through the embassies. That was usually handled by J.D. Gordon and Tara Dahl. Waleed for some period, until Waleed left, and there may have been other meetings set up, but those are the only ones that I'm really aware of. Is that helpful? Swalwell, yeah. Dearborn, okay. Swalwell, did you know of Donald Trump Jr.'s October 2016 trip to Paris? Dearborn, did I? What about it? Swalwell, did you know about it? Dearborn, no, there would be no reason for me to know about it, short of it being reported, if it had been. Swalwell, did he ever talk to you about it when he got back? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, do you know who Peter Smith is? Dearborn, I know a lot of Peter Smiths, so... Swalwell, it's a common name. Dearborn, yeah. Swalwell, do you know a Peter Smith who has been reported about, a deceased Peter Smith, who has been reported about in the Wall Street Journal as a GOP operative who claimed he was working with Michael Flynn to obtain Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails? Dearborn, no, I mean, short of maybe reading about it, I wouldn't know him. Swalwell, did General Flynn ever mention Peter Smith to you? Dearborn, not to my knowledge. I've had way too much water. Is it possible? Swalwell, yeah. Dearborn, but stay right here. I'll be fast. Swalwell, yeah, go ahead. Dearborn, thank you very much. Swalwell, yeah, no problem. Recess. Swalwell, just going back to the Comey, back on the record, going back to the Comey firing, it was reported that when that occurred, that the president, prior to the May 9th firing, that the president was in Bedminster, New Jersey, with Jared, Ivanka, and Stephen Miller. Were you aware of that? Dearborn, by accounts, by the reports, yes. Swalwell, were you aware of that by any individuals in the White House? Dearborn, it probably would have been on the trip book, too. And you skim it. I don't think I burned it to memory, but it would have been on the trip book, right? Swalwell, okay, and that would include who was traveling with the president. Dearborn, sure. Swalwell, or visiting with the president. Dearborn, just traveling. Swalwell, do you know if, independently of press, if Jared and Ivanka were with the president? Dearborn, just by what I've seen that was on the account and a trip book, I'm assuming that they were. Swalwell, okay, have you seen the trip book for that date? Dearborn, for that particular date. Swalwell, yeah. Dearborn, I've seen 1,000 trip books, so I may have seen it. But like I said, I can't really recall. I couldn't sit here and tell you that all these people were on it or not. Swalwell, was Stephen Miller with the president that weekend? Dearborn, I think it was reported, and it would have probably been in the trip book as well. Swalwell, have you talked to Stephen about that weekend? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, have you talked to Stephen Miller about the firing of James Comey? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, has he ever expressed an opinion to you about the Russia investigation? Mr. Miller. Mr. Dearborn, no, he's not. Mr. Swalwell, do you know if Hope Hicks was with the president in Bedminster that weekend? Dearborn, I don't. Swalwell, according to that same book reference earlier, that weekend at Bedminster, the president... Dearborn, which book was this? Swalwell, Fire and Fury. Caulfield, is there another book out? Dearborn, that's the one I was talking about. Swalwell, hopefully not, right? For Mr. Dearborn's sake. The book says, that weekend at Bedminster, the president, listening to the deep dismay of his daughter and son-in-law, built up another head of steam with Jared and Ivanka. Stephen Miller with also along for the weekend. And it goes on to say that the president worked with Jared Kushner, worked with Jared, Ivanka, and Stephen Miller on why the FBI director should be fired and asked him to draft a letter that could set out the basis for immediate dismissal. Were you aware of any of this? Dearborn, I have no insight on any of that. Swalwell, and I just want to make sure I understand. I've never worked at the White House, but it's not that many people working in the West Wing, right? Dearborn, so there are people with offices in the West Wing, and there are a lot of other people who worked in the West Wing, even though they don't have offices. You'd be surprised how many people are in and buzzing around the West Wing. Swalwell, and? Dearborn, and just so you have a sense of it, so with the EEOB right next door, some people's responsibilities may be centered around a lot of things in the West Wing, and they physically may have a desk over in EEOB, but they may spend half the day, or 3/4 of the day, in the West Wing. Swalwell, but to hear you describe the West Wing, or at least your role, it sounds like it's so compartmentalized that you don't even pick up chatter, scuttle, gossip, or reactions to, like, what's going on contemporaneously. Dearborn, oh, I pick this stuff up every moment of the day, but no one had real interest in any of this stuff. Swalwell, so your testimony is there was no talk that you picked up about the decision among the president's son-in-law, Stephen Miller, Hope Hicks, to fire James Comey. Dearborn, no, I mean just it wasn't. If you're asking me, was it water cooler discussion, it wasn't. Swalwell, the letter that they drafted, according to the book, by Miller and Hicks from Kushner's directions, or instructions directly coming from the president, was an off-the-wall mishmash containing Comey's handling of the Hillary Clinton investigation, the assertion from Kushner that the FBI itself had turned against Comey, and the president's key obsession, the fact that Comey wouldn't publicly acknowledge that the president wasn't under investigation, that would form the Trump family's case for firing Comey. That is everything but the fact that Comey's FBI was investigating the president. The passage goes on to say that the White House counsels quashed sending the letter, but that it was passed to Sessions and Rosenstein, who quickly began drafting their own version of what Kushner and the president obviously wanted. Does any of that sound familiar to your personal knowledge or what you've heard from others? Dearborn, not my personal knowledge, and, other than whatever has come out in reports that's been assumed. But, so the book and different press reports come out and make assumptions about things. I've seen those accounts. Swalwell, Do you know Roger Stone? Dearborn, I don't know Roger Stone. Swalwell, did you ever see Roger Stone interact with the president during the campaign? Dearborn, never saw it. Swalwell, have you seen Roger Stone at the White House? Dearborn, I don't want to say I haven't seen him there. He may have been there. Swalwell, have you ever seen him in the logs of visitors? Dearborn, I never review the logs. That's the domain of Joe Hagan. It's not my responsibility. Swalwell, are you aware of any phone calls during the campaign transition or presidency between Roger Stone and Donald Trump? Dearborn, I'd have no knowledge of that. Swalwell, were you aware when you were working with the campaign of Donald Trump Jr.'s communications with WikiLeaks? Dearborn, no. I mean, just, again, things that are out-reported in the press. Swalwell, were you aware of anyone on the campaign attempting to reach out to WikiLeaks during the campaign? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, what would you advise? What would you have advised if you learned that that was going on, or would you not have had an opinion? Dearborn, I don't know that I had much of an opinion about it. Swalwell, does the White House have a recording system in the Oval Office? Dearborn, I don't know. Swalwell, who would know? Dearborn, Joe Hagan. Swalwell, have you ever heard any individual talk about a recording system? Dearborn, in the movies. Swalwell, no, but I mean, in your job now. Dearborn, no, sir. Again, I wasn't trying to be flippant. Swalwell, no, I understand. Dearborn, that seemed like an easy softball. I had to take at least one swing. Swalwell, yeah, and prior administration at least, one prior administration. Dearborn, right, exactly. Swalwell, you're familiar with President Trump's tweet that James Comey better hope that there aren't tapes. Dearborn, I have seen that. Swalwell, okay, do you know what he was referring to? Dearborn, I do not. Swalwell, have you ever seen Corey Lewandowski at the White House? Dearborn, yes. Swalwell, how often? Dearborn, frequent. Swalwell, how frequently? Dearborn, that's tough. How would I describe it? Easily once a month, sometimes maybe twice a month, but probably more like once a month. Swalwell, who was he meeting with? Dearborn, I really don't, various individuals. When I run into him, he might tell me, hey, I'm going to come meet with this person or that person. So he has different meetings. Swalwell, has he ever met with the president about the Russia investigation? Dearborn, I wouldn't know. Swalwell, has Mr. Lewandowski ever expressed to you any opinions about the Russia investigation? Dearborn, yeah, in passing. Swalwell, what has he said in passing? Dearborn, I don't think he's a big fan of the Russia investigations, is the absolute nicest way I could put it. Swalwell, what's the just honest, candid way you describe or relay what he said? Dearborn, I don't think he puts a lot of stock in the Russia investigations. Swalwell, I guess, what has he said exactly? Dearborn, that they're a load of crap. Swalwell, okay. Dearborn, probably. Swalwell, how much interaction did you have with Donald Trump Jr.? Dearborn, I've had interactions with him over the course of the last 2 years, probably more so in the campaign. I haven't really. I've seen Don Jr. maybe once, twice at the most since the inauguration. I just haven't seen him down here that have often. Swalwell, have you seen him at the White House? Dearborn, I'm literally trying to remember if I saw him for an event at the White House. I really can't recall. Swalwell, have you ever talked to Donald Trump Jr. about any contacts that he or his family has with Russia? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, how about Ivanka Trump? How often did you interact with her during the campaign? Mr. Dearborn, more so after the inaugural, not as much during the campaign. A couple times during the campaign, maybe. Mr. Swalwell, and has she expressed an opinion about the Russia investigation? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, how about Eric Trump? Did you work with him during the campaign? Dearborn, I had a couple of chances to meet with and work with Eric Trump. Swalwell, Eric Trump said publicly a couple years ago that primarily the Trump organization's financing is coming from Russia. Did you ever talk to Eric Trump about the family's business dealings with Russia? Dearborn, no, sir, I didn't. Swalwell, did the president's children, during the course of the campaign, have their own staff assigned to them or body persons assigned to them? Dearborn, not that I ever saw. I mean, they were pretty independent. They would come in, you'd talk to them directly, or they'd show up solo. I never really noticed any kind of body people with them. Swalwell, have you ever been to Russia? Dearborn, no. Swalwell, ever been to any of the Baltic or Balkan border states? Dearborn, you'd have to list them all off, but I'm thinking no. I've been to China. Swalwell, how about Ukraine? Dearborn, never been to Ukraine. Swalwell, Hungary. Dearborn, yes, but no, I'm sorry. I had to do that one. No. Swalwell, you are hungry. It's almost lunch. How about during the course of the campaign? Did you ever travel outside the United States? Dearborn, no, only domestic. Swalwell, do you know whether Michael Cohen traveled outside the United States? Dearborn, I don't. I mean, short of reports that would say he did. But I don't remember. Swalwell, how about during the transition? Did you ever conduct any foreign travel? Dearborn, I did not. Swalwell, how about being on White House staff? Have you conducted any foreign travel? Dearborn, that's kind of what I meant with my answer. I've only traveled domestically with the president, so... Swalwell, okay, got it. Dearborn, yeah. Swalwell, do you have a security clearance? Dearborn, I do. Swalwell, did you read the intelligence community's assessment on Russian interference? Dearborn, I don't know if I personally read that. The routing of different reports is an NSC domain, and just because you have a clearance doesn't mean that they just route you every report. I guess if I wanted to see it, I guess I could have, but I've never asked to see it. Swalwell, have you read the unclassified version? Dearborn, probably not. I'll be real honest. I kind of walked through it a little earlier, kind of what my responsibilities are, and that's just not one of them. Swalwell, the intelligence community assessment is that Vladimir Putin, with a preference for Donald Trump, ordered his intelligence services to conduct an interference campaign in the past election. Dearborn, right. Swalwell, what do you think of that assessment? Dearborn, I think it's somebody's assessment. Swalwell, do you believe it? Dearborn, I don't know what to believe. Swalwell, I mean, it's not somebody's assessment. It's the CIA, FBI. Dearborn, I guess. Look, my answer in all that would be, I just don't know what to believe. Swalwell, why is that? Dearborn, I just know. I just don't know what to believe because there have been the assessments that have come out saying that this has happened, and then you've got everybody else on the other side saying that it hasn't. I think everybody agrees that something did happen, so I'm not the dismissive, it didn't happen guy. But it's kind of hard to believe. It's kind of hard to know exactly what to believe with all the noise. Does that make sense? Swellwell. I understand what you're saying. Dearborn. Yeah. Swellwell. But, Dearborn, I'm not discrediting it. I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying there's a basic assessment. And then there's everybody's interpretation and view of that assessment, which then kind of spins it out of control. Swellwell. Right. And? Dearborn. So the basic assessment, did it happen? Yes, I think everyone agrees to that. Anything beyond that, I don't know. Swellwell. And the basic assessment, also with high confidence, is that Russia, through its cyber actors, indeed did hack emails, disseminate emails, and conduct a social media trolling campaign. Do you accept that basic assessment? Dearborn. I think a lot of people do. I don't. I honestly, it's just not something I focus on. It's not. I haven't studied it in depth. It's not something that's in my wheelhouse for me to concern myself with. Does not. I'm not trying to make light of the issue, but there are a lot of other people that will deal with that. It's not my thing to deal with. Swellwell. Do you believe the Russians meddled in our election, the last one? Dearborn. Yeah, by all accounts and government accounts, etc. The suggestion is that they did. To what degree and to that? That's the piece that, I think, gets a little beyond. Mr. Swellwell. Okay, Mr. Dearborn. I don't have anything else. Thanks for spending your time with us this morning and this afternoon. We'll go off the record. Whereupon, at 3:16 p.m., the interview was concluded.